The sudden appearance of powerful human warships near Draconis space sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. A primitive race they had dismissed as harmless now threatened to upend the balance of power. Ensign Dennis Hicks, a rookie pilot on a routine scouting run in Sol's outer reaches, was the first to encounter the hostile alien force. His sensors pinged with an unknown contact. The sleek, blade-shaped craft belonged to no race humanity had met in their short time reaching for the stars. Dennis opened hailing frequencies, but the alien ship responded with a barrage of high-energy plasma bolts. Dennis gunned his engines and banked hard, barely evading the deadly fire. His heart raced as more bolts sizzled past his canopy. With a few frantic evasive maneuvers, he managed to escape back to Earth space, carrying word of this new, aggressive species, the Draconis. The Earth Defense Council greeted Dennis's report with alarm, but little surprise. In the decades since humanity's first contact with alien life, the EDC had learned one constant truth. The galaxy was a hostile place. Rapacious alien empires, viewing Earth as ripe for conquest, would inevitably come. Humanity needed to prepare. And prepare they did. While maintaining a facade of peace, the EDC secretly poured resources into building up Earth's space fleet and weapons technology. Advanced warships, powerful energy weapons, and legions of trained crews waited, hidden in deep space. Humanity stayed quiet, neutral, under the radar. Until now. Analysis of the data Dennis collected from his encounter revealed a chilling fact. These Draconis were scouts, searching for new worlds to conquer and exploit, and Earth's location was likely compromised. The EDC had no choice. To protect humanity from enslavement and ruin, they needed to act first. It was time to unveil their hidden fleet and strike back. Admiral Jameson, grizzled veteran and mastermind of Earth's secret space buildup, gathered humanity's best ships and crews, including Dennis Hicks himself. He briefed them on the existential threat of the Draconis. "If these alien bastards take Earth, it's all over," Jameson said, his voice gruff. "They'll enslave humanity, drain our world dry. We're one of the rare habitable planets in this godforsaken galaxy, and they want it. It's up to us to stop them." As Earth's fleet moved to establish a defensive perimeter around the solar system, Dennis was given a critical mission. Take a small stealth ship, infiltrate Draconis space, and gather intel on their military capabilities and plans. Dennis swallowed hard. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders. Light years away in the Grand Galactic Council chamber, the Draconis Emperor Corvus paced in fury. He lashed out at his advisors, talons cutting the air. "You said the humans were weak, harmless, and yet they dare challenge us?" Corvus's molten eyes smoldered. "I want their world subjugated and their species collared, an example to all who would defy Draconis rule." As the council debated how best to crush the nascent human threat, a panicked transmission cut through the Emperor's rage. Human warships, armed and numerous, had been spotted at their borders. The trap was sprung. Earth would not go quietly. The battle for humanity's future was about to unfold. Dennis Hicks and his elite infiltration team crept through the shadows of the Draconis border outpost, hearts pounding with adrenaline. The dim alien architecture felt oppressive, as if the very walls were watching them. "I've got a bad feeling about this place," muttered Sergeant Riggs, his grip tight on his plasma rifle. Dennis held up a hand, signaling for silence. They couldn't afford to be discovered, not when the fate of Earth hung in the balance. As they delved deeper into the outpost, the true scale of the threat became clear. Hundreds of Draconis warships filled the massive hangars, their angular hulls filled with weapons. It was a staging ground for an invasion fleet poised to strike at humanity's heart. "My God," whispered Corporal Lee, her eyes wide. "There's so many of them." Dennis knew they needed more than just visual confirmation. They had to find out the Draconis' plans. "Riggs, Lee, cover me," he ordered. "Kowalski, you're with me. We're going to tap into their systems." The team split up, Dennis and Kowalski heading for the outpost's central computers. The Draconis technology was alien, but the countless drills and simulations back on Earth had prepared them for this moment. With skilled hands and the EDC's advanced hacking tools, they wormed their way into the system. What they found chilled Dennis to the bone. "They're going to hit Earth," he breathed. "And soon. We have to warn the Admiral." But as they made to leave, alarm klaxons split the air. They'd been detected. Within moments, the room filled with Draconis soldiers, their reptilian faces contorted with rage. Plasma bolts filled the air as the humans dove for cover. They were outnumbered 10-1, but they were far from outmatched. The EDC had armed them with the best weapons Earth had to offer, powered by technology secreted away in hidden labs and black sites, far from prying alien eyes. The Draconis soldiers fell in droves as the humans' superior firepower tore through their ranks. But it wasn't without cost. Kowalski took a plasma bolt to the chest, his armor sizzling as he crumpled to the floor. Lee too fell, a smoking hole in her helmet. With a roar of fury and grief, Dennis and the others fought their way out of the outpost, leaving a trail of Draconis bodies in their wake. They barely made it back to their waiting stealth ship, its hull pockmarked with plasma scorches. As they blasted away from the outpost, Dennis struggled to process what they just learned and what it had cost. Earth was in mortal danger, and he'd lost good soldiers, friends, to bring that warning home. He prayed it would be enough. Light years away, Emperor Corvus seethed with a rage that burned hotter than 1,000 suns. The humans dared to attack them, to infiltrate Draconis space and spill Draconis blood. "Launch the fleet," he snarled to his waiting generals. "I want the humans crushed. Their cities reduced to ash. Their world made an example of." He would deal with this upstart race, show them the folly of challenging the Draconis, and he would have the backing of the Galactic Council to do it. "Send word to the Council," Corvus ordered. "The humans have proven themselves a threat to us all. They must be contained, and the Draconis will lead the charge." But even as Corvus set his plans in motion, the humans prepared for war. Admiral Jameson listened to Dennis's report with a somber expression, the weight of the coming battle heavy on his shoulders. "They're coming," Dennis said, his voice raw. "The Draconis are coming for Earth." Jameson nodded grimly. "Then we'll be ready for them. Humanity won't go down without a fight." Across Earth, the call went out. The EDC's secret fleet, hidden away for so long, launched from their bases, rising up to meet the enemy. Warships, fighters, and weapons platforms moved into position in orbit, a shield of human defiance against the oncoming storm. They had mere days to prepare, to turn Earth into a fortress that could withstand the full might of the Draconis war machine. And as the Draconis fleet emerged from hyperspace, Corvus was shocked by what he saw. The humans were ready for them, their own formidable fleet arrayed in defense of their blue world. The Emperor's hands clenched into fists. The humans were far more advanced than he'd been led to believe. This would not be the easy victory he'd anticipated. But that didn't matter. The Draconis would still grind them into dust. And after, Corvus would discover just how the humans had hidden their strength from the galaxy. There would be a reckoning. The fate of Earth, of humanity itself, would be decided in the fires of battle. And as the two fleets closed on each other, weapons charging, Dennis couldn't help but feel a swell of both fear and pride. This was it. This was humanity's moment. In the council chamber, the politics and schemes of a dozen alien races swirled around the revelation of humanity's shocking military strength. Some saw a new enemy, others a new opportunity. But all of them watched with breathless expectation, waiting to see if the upstart humans could do the unthinkable and beat back the Draconis war machine. The battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The battle for Earth erupted in a storm of plasma fire and missile contrails. Dennis's fighters screamed through space, narrowly dodging incoming fire from Draconis ships. His squad formed up behind him, their sleek fighters darting between enemy vessels. "Stay tight, Gamma Squad," Dennis barked into his comms. "We hit 'em hard and fast." For hours, the EDC fleet held the line against the Draconis invasion force. Human ships, filled with advanced weaponry, tore through alien hulls. But the Draconis kept coming, their superior numbers grinding down Earth's defenses. Dennis's fighter shuddered as a plasma bolt grazed his shields. "Damn, that was close," he muttered, spinning his ship to avoid another barrage. On the bridge of the EDC flagship, Admiral Jameson watched the battle unfold with relentless drive. "We're holding for now, but we can't keep this up forever," he said to his XO. Suddenly, a massive ship emerged from hyperspace, the Harbinger. Its obsidian hull dwarfed everything else on the battlefield. "Oh shit," Dennis breathed as he saw the dreadnought appear. "Command, we've got a problem." The Harbinger's weapons lit up, carving through EDC ships like they were made of paper. Dennis watched helplessly as entire squadrons vanished in the blink of an eye. "This is it," Admiral Jameson's voice crackled over the comms. "Hicks, take your best pilots and hit that monster. We'll cover you." Dennis swallowed hard. "Copy that, sir. All right, boys, form up on me. We're going in." His fighter rocketed towards the Harbinger, weaving through a hail of defensive fire. Point defense lasers filled space with deadly light, but Dennis and his squad dodged and rolled, closing the distance. On the Harbinger's bridge, Emperor Corvus snarled orders to his crew. "Destroy them all," he roared, talons digging into his command chair. Dennis's squad reached attack range. "Fire everything!" he shouted. A barrage of torpedoes streaked towards the Harbinger's bridge. For a moment, Dennis dared to hope. Then the Harbinger's shields flared, absorbing the impact. "No," Dennis whispered in horror. The Harbinger returned fire. In seconds, Dennis's squad mates vanished from his sensors, consumed by alien weaponry. His own ship rocked violently, alarms blaring as systems failed. With his craft falling apart around him, Dennis made a split-second decision. He aimed his crippled fighter directly at the Harbinger's bridge and punched his engines to full power. As he rocketed towards certain death, Dennis locked eyes with Emperor Corvus through the bridge viewport. In that moment, two mortal enemies faced each other across the void of space, separated by mere seconds and a thin layer of transparent steel. Dennis's fighter hurtled onwards, a second away from impact. Impact. In his final moment, Dennis locked eyes with Emperor Corvus through the viewport. Then his fighter smashed into the bridge, tearing through metal and flesh in a violent explosion. The Harbinger's shields flickered and died. For a crucial instant, the bridge lay exposed to the vacuum of space. Corvus and his officers were sucked out into the void, their bodies freezing and rupturing in seconds. "Now, all ships, concentrate fire on the Harbinger's bridge," Admiral Jameson's voice rang out over the comms. The EDC fleet responded instantly. Torpedoes streaked across space, their fiery trails converging on the dreadnought's vulnerable command center. Railguns spat hypervelocity slugs that punched through bulkheads and decks. Energy weapons lashed out, their beams carving molten furrows across the Harbinger's hull. The barrage tore the Draconis flagship apart from the inside out. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as power conduits overloaded and weapon systems detonated. The once mighty vessel began to list, venting atmosphere and debris. Confusion spread through the Draconis fleet like wildfire. Ships veered out of formation, their commanders desperately trying to make sense of conflicting orders. "Push the attack," Jameson ordered. "Don't let up." EDC fighters swarmed around the dying Harbinger, pouring fire into its wounds. Larger human warships moved to engage the disorganized Draconis vessels, picking them off one by one with precision strikes. The battle devolved into a chaotic melee. Draconis ships, cut off from Central Command, fought individually or in small groups. Some tried to press the attack, while others attempted to retreat. The coordinated EDC fleet tore them apart, exploiting gaps in their defenses and isolating targets. In the Galactic Council chamber, the assembled delegates watched the unfolding slaughter with a mix of awe and horror. The Draconis war machine, long feared throughout the galaxy, was being systematically dismantled by the upstart humans. "Impossible," a Zenthresh counselor chittered. "The Draconis fleet routed?" It appears we have severely underestimated the humans, a Valerian diplomat replied, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. As news of the battle spread, the political landscape of the galaxy began to shift. Races that had aligned themselves with the Draconis out of fear now scrambled to distance themselves from the defeated empire. Others saw an opportunity in humanity's unexpected show of strength. We must open diplomatic channels with Earth immediately, a Centauri representative insisted. Their technology and military prowess could be invaluable against the Hive incursions in the Orion Arm. The council chamber buzzed with activity as alliances were reconsidered and new strategies formulated. The humans, dismissed as primitives mere days ago, now stood poised to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Back on the battlefield, Admiral Jameson watched as the last pockets of Draconis resistance were mopped up. The price had been high. Too many good men and women lost. But humanity had proven itself. They would not go quietly into the night. As the fires of battle cooled, Jameson knew the real work was just beginning. Humanity was about to step onto the galactic stage, ready or not. The universe would never be the same. The preemptive strike against the Vrith-Drar Imperium sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Within hours, the Hive Queen's furious declarations of war echoed across subspace channels. Their main fleets poured from massive orbital hives, a terrifying swarm of chitinous warships descending on human and Kelravi systems. Admiral Jameson's face was grim as he watched the tactical displays. Vrith-Drar ships appeared as an ever-growing cloud of red dots, engulfing system after system. "We knew they'd retaliate," he said to his staff, "but this—" A junior officer interrupted. "Sir, new contacts. Kirdecan signatures." Jameson's eyes narrowed. The massive Kirdecan dreadnoughts dwarfed even the largest human vessels. Their appearance alongside the Vrith-Drar swarm spelled disaster. "Get me Dennis Hicks," Jameson ordered. "Now." Thousands of light years away, Dennis Hicks sat in the cockpit of his fighter, running pre-flight checks. His comlink crackled to life. "Hicks here," he answered. "Dennis, it's Jameson. We need you back from the border. Now, Theta Cimbri system is under heavy assault." Dennis's fingers flew over his controls, plotting a new course. "On our way, sir. What's the situation?" "Bad. Vrith-Drar ground forces are overrunning our defenses. Kirdecan ships are providing orbital support. We need you to punch a hole for evac transports." Dennis gritted his teeth. "Understood. We'll get it done." As Dennis's strike group raced towards Theta Cimbri, the Galactic Council chambers erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, their translators struggling to keep up. "The humans brought this on themselves," a Kirdecan representative bellowed. "Let them reap what they've sown." A Regolian diplomat raised her tendrils in a placating gesture. "Please, we must find a peaceful solution before—" Her words were drowned out by fresh arguing. On Theta Cimbri V, the situation grew desperate. Private First Class Sarah Chen crouched behind a shattered wall, her rifle clutched to her chest. Vrith-Drar screeches filled the air, punctuated by the staccato of human and Kelravi weapons fire. "Rodriguez," she shouted, "how many clips you got left?" The reply was grim. 2, maybe 3 if I make every shot count." A Kelravi soldier, his scales caked with alien blood, crawled to their position. "Human friends," he rasped. "Our southern flank has fallen. We cannot hold much longer." Chen nodded grimly. "We hold until evac arrives, no matter what." High above, Dennis Hicks led his fighters through a storm of Kirdecan fire. Massive energy beams lanced past his cockpit, vaporizing 2 of his wingmen in blinding flashes. "Evasive maneuvers," he barked into his comm. "Stay low, stay fast. We've got to clear a path for those transports." Dennis rolled his fighter, narrowly avoiding a burst of plasma fire. He targeted a Kirdecan cruiser and squeezed his trigger. A salvo of newly developed plasma torpedoes streaked from his craft, punching through the larger ship's shields and detonating against its hull. The cruiser's port side erupted in flame, atmosphere venting into space. Dennis allowed himself a grim smile. The new weapons worked. "All units, concentrate fire on Grid 7, he ordered. "Let's crack this thing open." His remaining squadrons complied, their torpedoes hammering the Kirdekan formation. Massive warships, thought invincible, began to falter and fall back. On the planet's surface, Chen and her fellow defenders heard the rumble of approaching ships. For a heart-stopping moment, she feared reinforcing Vrith Drur's troops. Then she saw the unmistakable silhouettes of human and Kelravi transports. "Evacs here," she shouted. "Fall back to the extraction point. Move!" As the defenders retreated, covering the stream of fleeing civilians, Dennis and his fighters continued their deadly dance in orbit. His cockpit alerts screamed as enemy fire filled space around him. With practiced precision, he juked and weaved, leading the Kirdekan ships on a wild chase away from the evacuation corridor. "This is Hicks to all ships," he transmitted. "We've got you covered. Get those people out of there." Dennis watched his sensor displays, counting down the precious minutes until the transports cleared the planet's gravity well. His remaining squadrons, now less than half their original number, fought with desperate courage to keep the enemy at bay. Finally, the transports jumped to hyperspace, carrying thousands to safety. Dennis allowed himself a moment of relief before facing the daunting task of extracting his own forces from the Kirdekan trap. "All units, disengage and fall back," he ordered. "Use your torpedoes to clear a path. We're going home." As Dennis's battered squadrons limped away from Theta Cimbri, news of their improbable victory spread. The Kirdekan Vrith Drur alliance, expecting an easy conquest, now faced a costly, protracted war. In his flagship's war room, Admiral Jameson studied the latest strategic projections. The evacuation of Theta Cimbri had bought them precious time, but the real fight was just beginning. He opened a comm channel to the Kelravi High Command. "This is Admiral Jameson," he said, his voice firm. "It's time to gather our fleets. We're taking the fight to them." Them. The Nestrian anchorage buzzed with activity as Dennis Hicks guided his battered fighter into the docking bay. Maintenance crews swarmed over the scorched hull, assessing damage and beginning repairs. Dennis climbed out of the cockpit, his muscles aching from hours of combat maneuvers. Admiral Jameson stood waiting on the deck, his face etched with lines of fatigue and concern. "Good to see you made it, Hicks," he said, clasping Dennis's shoulder. "We need every pilot we can get." Dennis nodded grimly. "What's our next move, sir?" "Briefing in 10 minutes. We're not out of this fight yet." In the command center, holographic displays flickered with real-time intelligence updates. Jameson's staff officers, their uniforms rumpled from sleepless nights, delivered their reports in clipped tones. "Vrith Drur battle fleet advancing on Drayan shipyards," a lieutenant announced, highlighting a mass of red icons. "ETA, 36 hours. Another officer chimed in. "Kirdekan forces have established a choke point here," he said, indicating a strategic cluster of systems. "They're cutting off Kelravi reinforcements from the inner colonies." Jameson studied the displays, his mind racing through tactical calculations. "We need to hit them hard and fast," he said. "Break their momentum before they can consolidate their gains." He turned to Dennis. "Hicks, I'm promoting you to Rear Admiral. You'll take command of the Scions of Terra battle group." Dennis blinked in surprise. "Sir?" Jameson continued. "Your mission is to engage the Kirdekan blockade at Palethros, draw them off, create an opening for our Kelravi allies to get through." "Understood, Admiral," Dennis replied, straightening his posture. As Jameson outlined the rest of the battle plan, Dennis felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The lives of countless soldiers and civilians now depended on his actions. Hours later, Dennis stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Enduring Dawn. Through the viewports, he watched as the Scions of Terra formed up around him, the most advanced warships humanity had ever produced. "All ships report status," he ordered. "Weapons hot, shields at maximum," came the responses from his captains. Dennis took a deep breath. "Execute jump sequence. Let's give the Kirdekan something to think about." The fleet surged into hyperspace, emerging near the Palithros choke point. Kirdekan ships loomed ahead, their massive hulls dripping with weapon emplacements. "Initiate attack pattern Epsilon," Dennis commanded. "Keep them guessing, don't let them pin us down." The Scions of Terra unleashed a blistering barrage, their advanced plasma weapons carving through enemy defenses. Kirdekan ships reeled under the assault, unused to facing an opponent that could match their firepower. Dennis's fleet danced through space, executing precise maneuvers to evade the enemy's superior numbers. They struck hard, then fell back, drawing more and more Kirdekan ships away from the choke point. On the Enduring Dawn's bridge, alarms blared as enemy fire raked their shields. "Incoming!" shouted the tactical officer. "It's the Hand of Vengeance!" The massive Kirdekan dreadnought loomed before them, its weapons already charging for a devastating salvo. "Brace for impact," Dennis ordered. "Return fire, all batteries." The two Titans traded broadsides, space itself seeming to warp under the exchange of firepower. The Enduring Dawn shuddered, but held firm. Dennis saw his chance. "Prepare boarding teams," he commanded. "We're going to gut that beast from the inside out." Assault shuttles streaked from the Dawn's launch bays, weaving through the chaos of battle. Terran Marines stormed aboard the Hand of Vengeance, fighting their way through alien corridors. "Sir, boarding team reports success," his comms officer announced. "Antimatter warheads planted at the reactor core." Dennis allowed himself a grim smile. "All ships, fall back to safe distance. Now." The Scions of Terra disengaged, just as the Hand of Vengeance erupted in a cataclysmic explosion. The blast tore through the Kirdekan fleet, leaving a swath of destruction in its wake. Sensor readings showed Kirdekan ships pulling away from the choke point, desperately trying to regroup. "We've done it," Dennis breathed. "Signal the Kelravi, their path is clear." As Allied reinforcements streamed through the newly opened corridor, Dennis turned his attention to the battles yet to come. The war was just the beginning, but humanity had proven it would not go down without a fight. The triumphant cheers on the Enduring Dawn's bridge faded as alarms blared. Acrid smoke filled the air, sparks showering from damaged consoles. Rear Admiral Dennis Hicks gripped his command chair, fist clenched as the ship shuddered violently. "Damage report," he barked. Lieutenant Reyes coughed, wiping blood from a gash on her forehead. "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, engines at 20%, weapons systems offline." Hicks nodded grimly. "Get me Admiral Jameson." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing Jameson's ash-streaked face. "Hicks, thank God you're alive. What's your status?" "We're crippled, sir, but we did it. Deep Mind is destroyed." Jameson's eyes widened. "Confirmed. The Vrithjur fleet is in chaos. You've given us a chance." A violent tremor rocked the Enduring Dawn. Hicks steadied himself. "We won't last much longer out here." "Understood. I'm dispatching rescue ships now. Hold on, Dennis." As the transmission cut out, Hicks turned to his crew. "All right, people. Let's keep her together until help arrives." Outside, the battlefield was a graveyard of shattered ships. Human and Kelravi vessels drifted lifelessly alongside the twisted hulks of Vrithjur swarmers. The massive debris field of Deep Mind spread for thousands of kilometers, a testament to the construct's immense size and the devastation of its demise. On the Allied flagship, Admiral Jameson surveyed the carnage. His tactical officer, Commander Chen, approached with a data pad. "Sir, preliminary casualty reports are coming in. It's bad." Jameson took the pad, his face hardening as he scrolled through the numbers. Entire squadrons wiped out. Kelravi Starhawks vaporized in the antimatter blast. Countless escape pods still awaiting rescue. "Get every available ship on search and rescue," Jameson ordered. "I want all survivors accounted for." As the rescue efforts began, the remnants of the Vrithjur fleet drifted aimlessly. Without the guiding intelligence of Deep Mind, the alien ships collided with each other, their crews reduced to feral instinct. Aboard a Kelravi cruiser, Captain Talara watched the Vrithjur's erratic movements. "They're completely disorganized," she reported to Jameson. Now's our chance to push them back. Jameson nodded. Agreed, but we need time to regroup and tend to our wounded. How long until your reinforcements arrive? The nearest battle group is 6 hours out, Talara replied. They're pushing their engines to the limit. It'll have to do, Jameson said. In the meantime, we'll salvage what we can and prepare for the counteroffensive. Over the next several hours, rescue ships combed the debris field. Medics worked tirelessly, treating the wounded from a dozen different species. Engineers cannibalized damaged vessels to repair others. In his temporary command center, Jameson pored over star charts and fleet positions. The Vrith-Dr's disarray presented an opportunity, but the Allied forces were stretched thin. Every decision could mean the difference between victory and defeat. As the reinforcements arrived and the fleet regrouped, Jameson addressed his assembled officers. We've struck a critical blow, but the war isn't over. The Vrith-Dr and Kirdekan still hold key systems. Our next moves will determine the fate of our civilizations. He activated a holographic display, highlighting potential targets. We'll strike here, here, and here. Cut off their supply lines, divide their forces. Without deep mind to coordinate them, we can isolate and destroy their remaining strongholds. The officers nodded, perseverance etched on their faces. They had paid a terrible price for this opportunity, and they would not waste it. As the briefing concluded, Jameson received word that Dennis Hicks had been rescued from the Enduring Dawn's wreckage. He hurried to the medical bay, finding his friend battered but alive. Hell of a job out there, Jameson said, clasping Hicks's shoulder. Hicks winced, then managed a weak smile. Just following orders, sir. What's our next move? Jameson's eyes gleamed with fierce purpose. We take back what's ours, every world, every system. We finish this. Outside the viewport, the Allied fleet assembled in attack formation. The final phase of the war was about to begin. Begin! The aftermath of Draen's Crucible left the Allied fleet battered but unbroken. Admiral Jameson stood on the bridge of his command ship, hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the debris field through the viewport. Twisted metal and frozen bodies drifted silently in the void, a grim testament to the battle's cost. Sir, we've finished compiling the casualty reports, Lieutenant Commander Chen said, her voice heavy. Jameson nodded without turning. How bad? 37% of our fleet strength gone. The Kelravi lost even more. Jameson's eyes hardened. He allowed himself a moment of grief before squaring his shoulders. And the enemy? The Vrith-Dr armada is in chaos. Without the deep mind, their ships are drifting aimlessly or firing on each other. The Kirdekan are trying to maintain cohesion, but they've lost their trump card, Jameson finished. He turned to face his staff, eyes blazing with purpose. This is our chance. We hit them hard before they can regroup. In the medical bay of the flagship, Rear Admiral Dennis Hicks winced as a medic applied regenerative foam to his burns. The acrid smell of singed flesh and antiseptic filled his nostrils. How soon can I return to duty? Hicks asked, voice raspy from smoke inhalation. The medic frowned. Sir, you should really... How soon? Hicks repeated, fixing the man with an unwavering focus. Before the medic could answer, Admiral Jameson strode into the room. On your feet, Rear Admiral. I've got a job for you. Hicks swung his legs off the bed, ignoring the protests of his battered body. What's the mission, sir? Jameson's eyes gleamed. I'm giving you command of our most advanced battle group. Your orders are to hit the enemy hard and fast. Keep them off balance while we push towards the Kirdekan core worlds. Hicks nodded, a predatory grin spreading across his face. When do we leave? As soon as your ships are ready. This is Operation Serpent Sting, and you're the venom. Days later, Hicks stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Relentless. A motley assortment of Terran and Kelravi warships formed up around them, each chosen for its speed and firepower. All ships report ready, sir, his XO announced. Hicks nodded. Plot a course for the Aragos system. Let's go hunting. The jump to Aragos Prime was smooth, the Relentless emerging from hyperspace with guns already hot. A Vrith-Dur garrison fleet hung in high orbit, their formation ragged and uncoordinated. "Enemy vessels detected," the tactical officer called out. "They're sluggish, sir. No sign of coherent command and control." Hicks allowed himself a tight smile. "All ships engage at will. Let's make this quick and dirty." The human Kelravi task force tore into the Vrith-Dur like wolves among sheep. Plasma lances sliced through alien hulls with surgical precision, while swarms of strike craft overwhelmed point defenses. On the planet's surface, marine dropships punched through gaps in the orbital network. Leaderless Vrith-Dur soldiers barely put up a fight as Terran shock troops stormed their positions. Similar scenes played out across a dozen systems as Hicks's raiders struck without warning or mercy. Each victory fueled the next, leaving a trail of broken enemy forces in their wake. Meanwhile, Admiral Jameson led the main fleet in a relentless advance towards the heart of Kier-Decan space. Intelligence reports painted a picture of an empire eating itself alive. "Another uprising on Telos 4, sir," an analyst reported. "The slave races are in open revolt. Kier-Decan garrisons are being overwhelmed." Jameson nodded grimly. "Press the attack. We give them no time to catch their breath." As the noose tightened, the remaining Kier-Decan warlords made their high-stakes endeavor. The massive form of the Sovereign Blade suddenly materialized in the midst of Hicks's raiding force, its weapons already firing. "Evasive maneuvers!" Hicks bellowed as the bridge rocked under enemy fire. "All ships, scatter and regroup. Don't let them pin us down." What followed was a deadly dance through the void of Talek's rift. The nimble human and Kelravi ships darted between lumbering Kier-Decan dreadnoughts, striking hard before fading away. Hicks gripped his command chair as the Relentless shuddered under another near miss. "Status report." "Shields at 60%, his XO replied. "2 destroyers lost, but we're bloodying them, sir." Before Hicks could respond, new contacts flashed on the tactical display. A cheer went up as Jameson's reinforcements translated in behind the enemy fleet. "Now we've got them," Hicks growled. "All ships focus fire on their flagship. Let's gut this beast." The Sovereign Blade writhed under the combined firepower of 2 fleets. Its shields flickered and died as Kelravi boarding torpedoes streaked towards its vulnerable flanks. A brilliant explosion lit up space as the massive vessel finally succumbed. Around it, the remaining Kier-Decan ships fought on in isolated pockets, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. As the last enemy vessels went dark, Hicks sagged in his chair, the adrenaline rush fading. He keyed his comm, voice hoarse but triumphant. "Admiral Jameson, Talek's rift is secure. The Kier-Decan flagship is destroyed." Jameson's reply crackled through the speakers, tight with emotion. "Well done, Rear Admiral. Well done indeed. But this war isn't over yet. There's still work to be done." Hicks nodded, his eyes already scanning damage reports and munition stores. The path ahead was. Admiral Jameson stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, his eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of hyperspace outside the view screen. The ship shuddered as it tore through the fabric of reality, pushing its engines to the limit on this blind jump into the heart of Vrith-Dur space. "Status report!" Jameson barked, his voice tight with tension. Lieutenant Commander Chen's fingers danced across her console. "All ships accounted for, sir. We'll exit hyperspace in 30 seconds. Jameson nodded, his eyebrows furrowed. This was it, the final push to end the Vrith-Dur threat once and for all. The bridge crew held their breath as the countdown reached 0. With a violent lurch, the Intrepid and its massive fleet of human and Kelravi warships burst back into normal space. Before them lay the Vrith-Dur homeworld of Verneth Prime, a sickly green orb surrounded by a swarm of ships engaged in chaotic battle. "My God," Jameson breathed, taking in the scene of utter devastation. Vrith-Dur vessels of every size tore into each other with reckless abandon, their formations shattered and purpose lost. The once unified hive mind had fractured, leaving only madness in its wake. "Sir, we're picking up transmissions," the comms officer reported. It's gibberish, screaming and static." Jameson's face hardened. "They're ripe for the taking. All ships, battle stations, launch fighters, and prepare for orbital bombardment. As klaxons blared throughout the fleet, Jameson opened a channel to his flagship's Marine contingent. Colonel Ramirez, prepare your troops for planetfall. You'll be the tip of the spear. Understood, Admiral, Ramirez replied, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. My boys and girls are itching for some payback. The human Kelravi armada surged forward, their weapons blazing. Caught completely off guard, the warring Vrith-Drur factions barely registered the new threat before it was too late. On the plains of Vernith Prime, dropships screamed through the atmosphere, disgorging waves of human and Kelravi Marines. They hit the ground running, pulse rifles spitting death as they cut through the disorganized Vrith-Drur mobs. Private Jack Chen dove for cover behind the smoking wreckage of an alien vehicle, plasma bolts sizzling overhead. He popped up, squeezing off short bursts that dropped 3 insectoid warriors in rapid succession. Push forward! Sergeant Kowalski bellowed over the din of battle. Don't let up! Chen gritted his teeth and charged, his squad mates fanning out beside him. The Vrith-Drur, once a terrifying foe, now scattered before the human onslaught like leaves in a storm. High above, Admiral Jameson watched the battle unfold on tactical displays. His fleet had established total orbital superiority, swatting aside the few Vrith-Drur ships that even attempted to resist. Sir, his XO reported, ground forces have secured primary objectives, awaiting your order for the next phase. Jameson took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. Bring us into low orbit. Prepare antimatter warheads and phased plasma ordnance. A hush fell over the bridge as the implications of the order sank in. Target all major hive cities and spawning nodes, Jameson continued, his voice cold. We end this today. The Intrepid shuddered as it descended, joined by dozens of other capital ships. Weapon ports irised open, revealing payload after payload of city-killing ordnance. Fire! Jameson commanded. The sky over Vernith Prime erupted in apocalyptic fury. Antimatter warheads detonated with sun-bright intensity, vaporizing vast swaths of Vrith-Drur civilization in an instant. Waves of phased plasma washed over the landscape, scouring it clean of life. From his position on the ground, Private Chen watched in awe and horror as the orbital bombardment rained down. The horizon turned to fire, and the very air seemed to boil. Holy shit, he whispered, the words lost in the thunderous roar of destruction. For hours, the barrage continued. Hive after hive was reduced to ash, along with any hope of the Vrith-Drur ever rising again as a unified threat. In the aftermath, Admiral Jameson stood before a view screen, surveying the smoking ruins of what had once been the heart of an empire. The weight of what he had ordered pressed down on him like a physical thing. Send word to all nearby Vrith-Drur worlds, he said quietly. Their prime world has fallen. Their war is over. As reports flooded in of Vrith-Drur worker castes laying down arms across a dozen systems, Jameson knew the tide had finally turned. But as he looked out at the devastation wrought by human hands, he couldn't help but wonder at what cost victory had come.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.